What's cracking, mental health marvels? It's your friendly neighborhood Kevin Hines. And before we get into today's video, I want to share with you something awesome. BetterHelp.com is the place where you get private, affordable online counseling anytime, anywhere. By using the discount code Kevin Hines, you get 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.com. Or you can simply use the URL BetterHelp.com/Kevin Hines to get that 10% discount and to help you with your brain, mind, behavioral, mental health, and well-being. So be well and be here tomorrow. Use that discount code today so you can get better help tomorrow. My name is Kevin Hines, and in the year 2000, I nearly died by jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge. I was depressed, I was terribly suicidal, and I thought I was a burden to my family. This was the furthest thing from the truth. I am beautiful, and so are you. Life is the greatest gift we've ever been given or will ever be given. So live it with me and be here tomorrow and every single day after that. Welcome to the Mental Health Marvels Podcast. What is cracking, Hope Nation? It is your boy Kevin Hines. I am here with the one and only John Boucher. How are you?
I am great. How are you, sir?
Good to see you.
Thank you for coming
I think
by.
we have to cheers.
We do.
This sip of hope
Yeah,
right there.
there you go.
We're at Sip of Hope in Chicago, Illinois. This is the Mental Health Marvels Podcast. Johnny, tell us how you founded Sip of Hope and why.
Well, Sip of Hope has always been a thing that we've talked about because Hope for Today's mission is to meet people where they're at and not where we expect them to be. And when we started expanding as an organization, primarily we were utilizing things like concerts, music venues, and community centers to do outreach. And we always thought, man, how great would it be to have like a space, like an actual brick and mortar space, because that is how we view, really like the evolution of our model of proactive suicide prevention is allowing safe places in the community to thrive on the good days and bad days, to have our doors open and allow people to come here, interact however we can. So when we decided to figure this out, we had to do it with our good friends at Dark Matter Coffee, because a couple of years prior to opening up the doors here, we decided that we were going to create a bag of coffee, simply just called Sip of Hope. We were going to have resources on it. And it was something that was completely, just a, hey, let's do this, and it'd be a cool idea. And we didn't know what was going to happen, but it started selling the bag, started selling, people started utilizing the resources on the back of the bag. So one day we were like, well, maybe we should open up a coffee shop. But in order to do that, we had to take a big step back and figure out how to do it, and then take a big leap of faith, because as you can see right here, it's the world's first coffee shop where 100% of the proceeds support proactive suicide prevention and mental health education. But really, we wanted to have something that wasn't just a direct, to like a direct support line or anything like that. We want to have a place where people can come and be a part of the bigger picture.
Tell me about the training you give your baristas. How does that work, and what does it look like?
So, all of Hope for the Day's executive staff are actually all mental health first aid trainers. We're instructors. We work beautifully with the National Council of Mental Health. And when we were looking at this model, we said, hey, how do we equip our baristas to be on the front line of these conversations? Because everyone at Hope for Today, we're all over the place here right now. But if people come in here, we need to know that they get that care, they get that conversation, they get that love, They also get someone who will listen, which is something that we got to really talk about every single day, is being able to listen. So in order to do that, we were like, well, it'd be great to just make sure they're ran through the program, so every new employee goes through mental health first aid. And then on top of that, across the street from the library, we have the library across the street that we provide free mental health education sessions. So we have a 1 hour, a 4 hour, and then we have the 8 hour mental health first aid. Yeah, we do it all for free to the community, because we pack it out too. Because people here, they come here, they see it, they're a part of it, and they go, wait a minute, there's an education thing. I can go across the street. The idea is that you can build things here and take it out back to your community, but know that Monday through Sunday, 6 to 9, every single day, we're open.
Wow.
We're here to thrive with you as a community.
Not just to help people survive, but to thrive.
Yeah.
You've got, as you walk into your cafe, you have got your Sip of Hope resource wall.
Yep.
Tell us about that and why it's so important.
So the resource wall was really the biggest factor of this coffee shop. We wanted to make a stigma-free zone, right? It's kind of like when you go work out at Planet Fitness, it's the judgment-free zone. This is a stigma-free zone. When you walk in, you're presented with the resource and education wall. Plus, you can also grab a bunch of Hope for the Day, It's Okay Not to Be Okay wristbands, because we want people to champion themselves, to go out and break that silence and raise the visibility. But sometimes we're looking for those resources. We don't know where to look. And if we Google sometimes, we go into a very dark place, right? So when we were building out the resource wall, we said we need to have something people can trust. It needs to be applicable to many different communities. That's why you see a lot of it is available in Spanish as well, because in the Logan Square neighborhood where we're located at, it's a very, very big Latinx population. So we just need to be conscious of where we're at too, you know? So the resource wall to me was the most essential thing because we didn't want it to be down a scary hallway. So when people came in, they're like, oh, they went down the hallway. You know? Now we know if you go down the hallway, you went to the bathroom, or you're going out the back door for some reason. But it's also, we know in society right now, people are looking for that help. And so what better way to be able to have a resource wall that when people come in for some of those hard conversations, maybe for themselves or a friend, right? We know where to direct them to. But our staff also knows how to talk about every single resource on this wall because we need to, you can't get something you don't have, right? So for us, it was so important that when you walk in, you can grab it, you can walk right back out. That's fine. And people do that. But people come in here, they work for a couple of days, they muster up the ability to talk to our staff, and then they're in here all the time, but they're thriving. Instead of sitting here wondering, do I deserve this help? Can I have this conversation? When, yes, you can. That's what we're here to do. And we have the best coffee in the world, too. So
Best coffee in the world. Sip of hope. Hope for the day. Okay, Johnny, you started this. You founded this effort. I need to ask you why.
Yeah.
Why does it matter to you?
So it matters to me for many different reasons. My history, starts really when I was 13. I started booking punk rock and hardcore shows here in the city of Chicago, and my parents always, pushed the idea of community, looking out for our friends and our family all the time. Because when you walk in my parents' house, there's a sign that says "We put the fun in dysfunction," and it's because both my parents came from massive families. And they had to learn how to get along and accept one another too. My mom says you can't pick your family, you just need to learn how to love your family. So when I started putting on shows, it exposed me to so many other community members and like the good things that are going on in life and also the hardships in their life. And I think that punk rock music in general is for those who feel a little bit exiled from society. So for me, it was a way of gathering and just constantly gathering. And with more open doors, more tragedy is exposed. And in 2010, my boss, Mike Scanlon, he jumped off his 5th floor balcony in the Lincoln Park neighborhood here in Chicago. And Mike was my Robin Williams, like 100%, like had it all. We worked in big concerts, together. So we were producing, 40,000 people music festivals. And for Mike, a lot of people thought he had it all, right? The Chicago Tribune wrote about his penthouse that he bought, and then 8 months later, they didn't talk about the other side of the story, how he jumped from it. And when I was working for Mike, I felt very empowered. I was very young. I wasn't just doing punk rock shows with 300 people anymore. And I also was exposed to some of the hardships that Mike was facing, and I took the time to kind of call him out on it. And that's where my See Something, Say Something tattoo on my hand comes from. Is because I had the ability to talk to someone who is a superior of mine about, hey man, I know you're doing these things outside of work, I care about you, but I didn't know that it was as bad as it was. And ultimately, on August 19th, 2010, I found out that Mike had jumped off this building, and my world was shook, completely shook. I didn't know what was going on. That same week, I lost a friend, Kelly, to cancer. And I think that at the same time that week, I was like hanging out with my ex-girlfriend. That Lady Annabelle song was playing or whatever, and it was just like there were so many emotions. But I left that week compelled to do something differently with my life. And I was also being very clear with myself on some of the hardships I was facing working in the music industry because it is so cutthroat. And I just had this thought that like if I were to go tomorrow, what would be left behind that I could like hold on to, right? And like people could hold on to. And out of all the concerts I did, none of it mattered. And I was just like, gosh, I really want like people like Mike to know that they can talk about things. So I took some time and sat down one night and wrote on a piece of paper, and I realized that Mike was number 9 on now a list of 16 people that I've personally lost to suicide. And it's like the one thing you don't want to like be able to brag about in life, but one's more than enough. But it was kind of scary because I think that, as history's gone on, we haven't really talked about suicide. But for me, I just felt compelled to like challenge it. And then when I saw that staggering list, I realized that my aunt and my uncle were on that list. And those were both from my mom's side of the family, which has allowed us to really dive into the history of my mom's family and just some of the things that we got to look out for. Like everyone was pretty much an alcoholic other than my mom. A lot of people had drug abuse problems other than my mom. So my mom's been able to be a really good source of guiding, especially while I've been growing into my own career. But she also challenged me to never be silent about this, and it's also challenged her to never be silent. So as a 68-year-old woman, when she hears anyone talk about mental health, she's like, what's going on? But she doesn't, she's not the deer in the headlights. She is doing what our mission is, being proactive about it. And that's like the best thing that we could ever ask for. But the more that I realize that, holy shit, I've been impacted, I can't be the only one. See Something, Say Something really became this thing where I was like, well, I'm still putting on my punk rock shows, so like, let's just put these flyers out with the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. I can get on the mic and just talk about these things because it's my show. But then I started realizing the more I talked about it, more others wanted to talk about it. More others were like, yo, bro, I've been impacted too. Or, hey, man, where's that resource you were talking about? And just to be able to be, a brother in arms in the punk rock community was amazing. But this conversation I knew was for a much larger audience. And just we started to grow, and it was constantly just trying to look at every opportunity to break the silence and raise the visibility of resources in those communities, because we also needed to, go to the next show. We needed to go to the next event. And as you know, that's sometimes the hardest thing about going to events is that you're like, I'm only here for a few hours, and we're going to talk about some real heavy shit, but I need you to understand in this moment, I'm going to empower you because you can be empowered to take that pain and do something with it, or to take that next step and ask for help, or go back to counseling because maybe the first counselor didn't work, right? There's a bunch of them out there.
Right.
And the best counselor is the one that says, if it doesn't work between us, let me be a bridge to help you to get to the next one.
The right person that can relate to you, connect with you.
Absolutely.
Empathize with you.
Absolutely.
Not judge you.
Right, exactly. But in all of this, we've realized that people just want to talk about it. But we're so scared to talk about it because of stigma, right? Stigma, the big word, and we want to say, fuck stigma,
F you.
Yeah, exactly. Get out of here.
Leave the building.
Yeah.
You're not allowed here.
Yeah.
Neither is discrimination, marginalization,
Yep.
prejudice, bigotry. Get out.
Yeah, absolutely. So everything that we've done is just to try to meet people where they're at and not where we expect them to be. And then over time, we've built our tools to be a very linear approach to how we talk about mental health, but we can adapt it to your community. Because as also white privileged men, that is like our job. But what better person to have right next to our side than a POC, Carl, right? Who can talk about his own experience, but at the same time leverage the fact that this isn't just one people problem. It's a big problem, and we all go through it differently. But at the end of the day, by realizing that it's okay not to be okay, we can take that next step. We can talk about that because that's how we change society. That's how we change institutions. But it starts with us.
It's not just a problem that affects one group of people. It's a societal, a structural, and a cultural problem that crosses all socioeconomic backgrounds and barriers. And we're not talking about our young black men. We're not talking about our Latinx groups that are going through it. And we're not talking about young Asian men and women who are dealing with it in a way that's much different from other folks.
Yeah.
And we need to be in a way that is productive and proactive for them in particular.
Yep.
It's not a one-size-fits-all. So there you are at the library.
Yeah.
Here you are at the coffee shop. You're going into different communities. Where are you going next? What do you think is going to happen? What's going to happen for Sip of Hope in the next 5 years?
Well, for Sip of Hope, we look at this as one of the ways that we can really build out our local presence in a couple of communities that we want to grow in. Because one thing that we want to do with Hope for the Day is we don't want it to be a disjointed process when we expand and we put teams in different cities. We don't want it to be this, oh, they're part of us. It's like, no, we're a team, and our teams are thriving in all these markets. And then over time, places like Sip of Hope can pop up, because this was a gamble. This was a huge gamble. There was not $1 that came from the state of Illinois to fund this project. And that's a great way to talk to politicians. You're like, hey man, this is something that was built by the community. It's literally for the community, by the community. And one thing here, specifically in Chicago, that we constantly talk about is that how mental health services have been like, oh, it's coming, and then all of a sudden the door is shut, because of lack of funding. And then everyone's like, well, figure it out, We have one of the highest populations for people living with mental illness in the city of Chicago, but also in the country. And it's Uptown, the Uptown neighborhood, which has been like notoriously like the mental health staple for Chicago. But because of how things go, lack of funding, all of a sudden close doors, put people out in the streets, and we have a problem here. but it's a problem that we can see parallels in other cities and other communities. So we really see that, all right, if we're going to expand into other cities and put real people in there, how do we do it? Bring that linear approach. But then if we get out to Colorado, we get out to the Bay Area, start to really address those things from what's going on in those communities, because that's like the best part about our education. It's a plug and play, and we say, well, here it is, we bring all this, so we make it appropriate, whether it's culturally appropriate, geographically appropriate. It's just so important that we all recognize that we're human beings, we all have brains, we all have good days and bad days, we all eat, sleep, shit, and cry. And if we talk a little bit more, we'll probably figure out a couple other things that we have in common.
Yeah, right.
But we all walk around like we're the only ones.
No, yeah, we all bleed the same blood. When it's inside our bodies, it's deoxygenated as blue. When it comes out of it, it's red. We're all going to be put 6 feet on the ground when we're done. And that's the nature. Like human beings, there are two things we know about human beings. We err, we mess up, and we die.
Yeah.
We're mortal human beings. If we can just help people give themselves time to change, we can help them find ways to stay here. My dad always used to say, hard work is nothing good ever came without it.
Yeah.
He also was like your mom in a sense, where he would also say, you can pick your nose, you can pick your friends, but you can't pick your family. So I love that you brought that up.
Yeah.
For a moment here, if it's possible, can we bring Dave in here real quick?
Yeah.
Dave,
come on in.
Come here. Please, come on, buddy.
Come on in the middle.
Right in the middle. Dave, we want to bring you in here, okay? So this is Dave. Tell us about yourself a little, Dave. Tell us how we met.
Oh, okay. So you and I met at the Trump Tower, actually.
Many stories end well there.
Leave that part out.
But I think what we talked about there specifically, you're giving a speak to a construction group.
Yes.
And and what we were talking about was, boys don't cry, that kind of thing. And the construction industry is male dominated.
And around the world, they're dying.
Yeah.
And I remember their HR person was saying it wasn't until mental health first aid came along that an industry like ours was receptive to this conversation, right? Because of the way it was marked. And I think that part of the battle that we need to get over is how do we approach this conversation, and approaching it in as non-threatening as a way as possible, instead of waiting for them to come to us. Maybe they'll come to a hip, cool coffee shop and have that conversation on their own terms, right? And so that's sort of what we've been really trying to focus on, and I think you've helped us kind of see the light in that sort of sense. Is this doesn't have to be scary. This is something that we're all going through, and you've been such an amazing advocate and someone that we've looked up to this entire time as we've sort of been on our own journey. We just really appreciate what you're doing.
Well, thank you. I brought you in here, Dave, because I made a promise to you guys a long time ago that we were going to do a commercial for Sip of the Day and Hope for the Day coffee. So here is that commercial, guys.
There you go.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Cheers. Sip of the Day. Sip of Hope. Hope for a Day. You guys break it down. Tell us why they should come in here, why they should buy this coffee, and what good it does.
Well, I mean, everybody deserves to drink the best coffee, because it is a funny joke. Life is too short not to drink good coffee. But here, what you find here is a community that is looking and is eager to constantly talk about these things. And it's not just a coffee shop. It's a community resource. It's a sanctuary of people who've been through things that we can all find a really common thread on and talk about. And at the end of the day, it's still the best coffee in the world. So, but the mission of it too, it's the world's first where 100% of the proceeds go right back into, proactive suicide prevention and mental health education, which is just really changing how we think about raising money, how we think about just talking about mental health in general. And it really, it does so many things. As we know, when we're talking about mental health, there's so many invisible successes, right? And, we're not here chalking them up in here. We're here just nourishing it, and we're here talking about it, but we know that we are stronger every single day that this shop is open, and the community of Chicago is too.
Absolutely. And Dave, tell us about It's Okay Not to Be Okay. Why is that such an important symbol, and why is it on your wall?
So it's on our wall because it's what our mission is in a phrase. And here at the coffee shop, we say, "Come for the coffee, stay for the conversation." And that conversation is it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to have good days and bad days, and if you're having those bad days, we need to talk about it. and you don't have to feel weird about it. You don't have to feel bad about it. We're here for you to be that bridge to get you the help that you need.
And you got a great mural in the back that says "Have Hope."
Yeah.
And people always tell me when I talk about having hope that hope is not an action plan, but it's a damn good start.
Yeah.
And it's the start to a new conversation of a day where you go, okay, if I can find hope, if I can find light at the end of the tunnel, I can find a light at the darkness, darkest of my hours, I can stay.
Yeah.
And if I can find hope, I can also find a purpose.
Yeah.
So that Have Hope sign, tell us about who designed it, and please, I want to break this down.
So
we'll show this.
So Lauren Asta, she's an amazing artist. She's originally from the Bay Area, and when she came into Chicago, she was working with her good friends at the company Threadless, and I was just so in love with like the characters she was doing. And when we were talking about the design of the coffee shop, we were like, "Oh, we want to have one massive, eye-catching mural right when you walk in." And literally, some people walk up to it and they're like, "Oh my gosh, it says Have Hope," after staring at it. And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, it's fun." It kind of messes with you, but at the same time, when people ask for the Wi-Fi password, like, "Oh, it's on the back wall," or if I'm around, I'll just say it's on my knuckles. But Lauren, she came to me. We had a really good conversation about, she lived in the Bay Area. She saw a lot of things with homelessness and just really a lot of issues, and she actually knew about you. And I was just, "Oh yeah, we know Kevin." And she was talking here, and she's like, "I really want to do this mural. What do you want?" I go, "I just want to say Have Hope, and I want you to feel like you can run with it." And she did that completely freehand. In 4 days.
Really?
Yeah, we gave her the keys. She was in here at night and just like crushing it. And then I came in one day. I was like, "All right, great, there we go." But she has become very popular, not only here in Chicago but around the world. And it's amazing because her story is all about community and all about driving community. And so when I approached her with this, it was a no-brainer. But now her fans travel and they're like, "Oh, I gotta go see the coffee shop too," and it's just and it evangelizes these people that we may have never been exposed to. But that's the beauty of this shop. When you go into the bathrooms, there's different artwork from different artists as well, and it's like all these people have community-driven mindsets, and when we all come together, we're so much stronger together. But it also allows them to have a piece of the pie here and be like, "Oh yeah, if you need help, go to the coffee shop where I did my mural at." Like they're ready for it. And what's interesting about this coffee shop is that, we work so closely with like the Chicago Police Department and everything that they sometimes suggest to people that are in distress but don't have to go to be hospitalized. They're like, "Do you know about Sip of Hope?" Because I go there too. And all of a sudden you're like, "Oh, really?" So we've been doing a lot of great work with the police department because we want officers to know that they have a safe place here. But really here we're also able to drive that connection that no one wants to hear if a cop's having a bad day. And everyone's scared of the cops, but here they can have that conversation. They can rebuild that trust, which is so important because there are times when we are experiencing, mental health complications in our community where we need to rely on 911. So we need to build that trust because there's other resources that sometimes aren't available, or there's hotlines that are only available at certain points of the day where you got to call 911, but you also need to articulate how to ask for that help. So in our education modules, we do a really good job of doing that because we, in the city of Chicago, sadly, are known for people getting shot by the police. We have to talk about it. It's not the coolest thing to talk about, but we can talk about it here in a safe place, and the cops can talk about it as well, how they're going through more training to become more aware and more alert of what distress looks like. But also we have to equip the citizens and the community members to be able to say, "Hey, I'm calling, but this is not like, no one's breaking in. Right now, my son's having trouble, I'm having trouble, and I need some help. Can you please send a CIT, a crisis intervention trained officer?" Because that officer could go in there, de-escalate everything, no guns are drawn, no one's getting shot, but we have a lot of work to do.
We have a lot of work to do in every community in that regard.
Yeah.
And the fact that police officers can come here, the lay person can come here, every background can come here, enjoy the same thing, have that conversation. I'll tell you a quick story about myself that not too many people know about. I've had 8 psych ward stays, you know that. But it was my 5th psych ward stay that I had to walk into my clinic and say I was suicidal, and I asked for help. I recognized it was okay not to be okay. I told my therapist that in my community mental health center, and they sent the police to come pick me up, to handcuff me, put me in the back of a squad car. But these gentlemen treated me with the most utter kindness that you can imagine because their officers were trained in the CIT model. And I used to give those trainings in San Francisco myself. And I get in the cop car, and the senior officer says, "Hey, you look familiar." And the junior officer turns around and goes, "Yeah, somewhere I said, I probably gave your CIT training. I said, yeah, I recognize you. And the senior officer turns to me and goes, how are we doing? I said, you're doing great so far. We'll see how it goes, how it ends up. And because I've had poor experiences there. But we get to the psych emergency services, and these officers kept getting calls on their radios, and to be somewhere else, to do something that was maybe more important and more pressing. But they decided to put one hand on my shoulder, one hand on the other shoulder, and say, we're not leaving until you feel comfortable here.
Yeah.
And for an officer to do that, for an individual who's going through that much pain, that experience helped me to want to continue to do work with law enforcement, because if we also have to recognize, yes, they do have a hard time, and they're one of the highest populations for suicide themselves in the world, not just here, in Australia, in Japan, all over the world. And it's not just us that are hurting, they're hurting too. Yeah. So this is a spot we can all come to enjoy and be kind to each other. Be
badge on, badge off, does not matter.
I love that. Dave, was there a situation in your life that led you to get into this field, like Johnny, or that you've gone through that led you to get into this field? If you're comfortable talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually went through Catholic school my entire upbringing, all the way through college. And I remember in either 6th or 7th grade, our pastor came in and spoke to us and said, basically, if you commit suicide, that's the ultimate F you to God. And if you commit suicide, you're going to hell, right? And I remember that conversation. I wasn't affected by suicide until one of my best friend's brother, who was 21 years old, he was 6'5", a model, and had everything going for him, took his own life. And he was one of the kindest, sweetest dudes I ever knew, right? And I'm like, there's no way that person is going to hell, you know? And it wasn't until that moment that I realized that, wow, we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do, and there's so many people who are out there suffering. And, suicide is just the means to an end, just like you die by cancer, you die by disease. We need to treat the symptoms that, from the very get-go. We need to start these conversations in a very different way. And so I think that I was really shaped by that. I think, here we have, in Chicago, we have a pretty progressive Catholic church even, and there are some leaders that are starting this conversation with the loss program, having outreach to survivors of suicide. So, I think that this is the moment, the work we're doing, Cover 2, this is the time that we're going to change the world and change the conversation, because it's turning into epidemic levels, and sometimes we get to pick our path, and sometimes our path chooses us. And I feel like meeting Johnny that was meant to be, and meeting you that was meant to be. I think we're on this journey together, and we're going to do a lot of good together. So I didn't choose this; this was chosen for me, and I'm just excited to know that this was chosen for me and the difference that we can make.
Together we can, together we will,
Yeah.
Together we must. And on that note, the previous Pope denounced suicide as a sin.
Yeah.
Before he left his popeship, I don't know if that's probably not what it's called. His popeship, let's go with it. On a ship of popeness. Okay.
And then we have a punk rock pope.
Yeah, right in front of us. No, but I think that we've been given the gift, some of us, to share our stories and to make an impact. And we have to do that on as wide of a scale as humanly possible. I love what you guys are doing here. I'm so grateful you took the time with me to chop it up. It means the world to me. If you could take us away, Johnny, in a way that is in only a way you can. Take us away and let us know.
Usually we do a power clap.
Can't do that.
No, we can't. It'll be a
all
messy
over
one.
the floor, and the mic will be in trouble.
In the coffee shop when you leave, you see our big message that we are in this together, and that is the real battle cry here, is that we are all in this together, and that we can talk about these things. But if we continuously allow stigma to speak for us, we have to challenge ourselves and ask, well, who will speak for us when we need the help, or when we can be the help? If we allow stigma and society's pressure to get in the way of that, Because the more we talk about it, the more we realize that we're not fucked up, we're not crazy, we're not insane. We're all human beings going through this thing called life. And if we have a story, we should tell it. We should allow our insecurities to be our attributes. Because if you fell in the dirt and you got up, tell that story, because people are falling in the dirt every day, but they need to get help back up. Just like when you fall down in the mosh pit, right? You need people to help get you back up so you can get back into the show.
I've never been in the mosh pit, but if I was,
Yes, he has.
I'd get back up. I get back up. I
Yes,
swear.
he has. This guy loves the heavy metal. But it's like that. It's like we need to look out for one another, especially in a world right now where we're constantly being impacted by tragedy because we have cell phones and we're so ingrained in that. We need to take time, put the cell phones down, look each other in the eyes, have a cry. Because I proudly cry all the time, and I want to encourage more people, not just men, but everyone, to let that out, because you deserve what's next. You deserve what's next, and there's no point in going through it alone, because we're all going through it. We all are. And if we just open up more, we'd get through this a lot easier. But at the same time, we are an army. We are a part of the mental health community. Hopefully the day is, and we proudly stand with all of our allies. And we know that we're not the only organization that's going to save this, this problem and get in front of it. It's a group effort, and the more that we realize that we are in this together, I mean, the challenge is ours, and also the victory will be ours.
Cheers, guys. Thank you so
Cheers.
much.
Thank you, guys.
Guys, this is the Mental Health Models Podcast. Check out that link in the description. Comment below about this episode, what you want to see next, and how we can help better serve you and your population. We can all be mental health marvels, stewards of change for individuals going through mental pain, and we're all in this together. Cheers. Have a great day, and be here tomorrow.